actually, in the beginning, I found Israelis really rude. And they have this reputation of being very in your face, very straightforward. They'll, if they don't like the food, they'll tell them straight up, And in the beginning, I used to be so scared of that kind of attitude. And then over time being there, I've also learned to say no to people so much more. Because I think we have a tendency not to say no very well in India. We just smile and say, okay, I'll see what I can do. Whereas now I'm like, no, I can't do it. Sorry, bye. And it's really liberating.
Digital technology, studying and working abroad, and affordable international travel have all made it more likely that you're Mr. or Mrs. Right, or right now, could be from an entirely different country. So it's no wonder that the number of cross-border couples is on the rise worldwide. And while international love can open us up to a whole new way of being, it also comes with its own set of challenges. Like moving to the other side of the world, in my case.
Love matters. Love matters. Love matters. Love matters with Evelyn Sharma.
Hi, I'm Evelyn Sharma, and this is Love Matters, a podcast about relationship topics that matter to you and me, produced by Indian Express and DW, Germany's international broadcaster. I'm super excited for today's topic because I'm no stranger to it myself. My husband Tushan and I were in a long-distance relationship because we're both from completely opposite sides of the world. He's from Australia and I'm from Germany, but we both met in India. Of course, it's wonderful to be with someone from a totally different background because you can learn so much from it, but it can also be challenging. Like you have to figure out who will make the big move to the other's country. And then there's the cultural misunderstandings and miscommunications that can lead to all sorts of mishaps. So I'm delighted to have a wonderful guest today, Kalki Koechlin, to give us insights into how she and her partner, Guy Hirschberg, who is from Israel, navigate the highs and lows of international love. Welcome to the show, Kalki.
Hi, Evelyn. It's good to talk to you after so long.
Kalki, you need no introduction, but I will still mention that you are an award-winning actress and writer with French roots. We actually met for the first time on the sets while shooting for our movie Ye Jawani Hai Diwani. It's been a long time.
Yes, it has.
Yeah, and Kalki, you also currently host the amazing BBC podcast, My Indian Life, in which you explore the lives of young Indians. Plus, you're a mummy to a sweet baby daughter. Talk about so many parallels.
Really, it's true.
There's so much we could be talking about, but today let's chat about a true matter of love, international relations. Not the politics, of course. We're talking international dating. And so my first question to you is, how did you meet your partner and how did you end up where you are today?
Well, I met my partner. I went on a girls' trip to Israel. Yeah, so there were three of us from India, and one of my friends who's half Jewish, she had moved to Jerusalem for her music career, and she happened to tell us to come, and so we went on this big girls' trip to Israel, and we ended up in her house in Jerusalem, and we wanted to go to the Dead Sea, but we didn't have a car, and she didn't drive. So she said, I have this friend who I work with in music school. His name is Guy, and he could take us in his car. So she checks with Guy. He says, oh, yeah, I'll take 4 Indian girls to the Dead Sea happily. We all found ourselves.
Who wouldn't?
Found ourselves going to the Dead Sea. And it was actually, we ended up having 2 cars because another friend said yes. And I was in the other car and we went to refuel petrol and we stopped, both cars stopped, and I saw him with his dog. He had this beautiful Saluki. It's like a desert dog, very elegant dog. Her name was Kiara. I saw his dog and I gave him a big hug and I said, can I take your dog for a walk? And he said, sure, but she doesn't go with anyone. And I took Kiara for a walk and she was very happy to go with me. It was like instant connection with the dog.
Well, speaking about dogs, I'm really sorry if you hear mine barking in the background, but she's on a mission today to protect the house. So Sorry in advance.
Coco, yeah, no, they're very protective with babies around, I know. Anyway, so we met on this trip. We thought we'd never see each other again. I went back to India, and next thing I know, he's on a flight to India for the first time. And then we were commuting from Bombay, Jerusalem for the next couple of years.
Wow. So what was your first impression of him? Because I'm guessing he's not Indian and he's got a bit of a different background to yourself.
Yeah, he's part Iranian, part Polish, part Russian, a real mix. And he's Jewish and born in Israel. It's strange. I think we do have a lot of cultural similarities because Israel does also have this. I mean, it's still the Middle East, and there's a lot of jugaad. There's a lot of, there's places where you really got to bargain well, and people are, cutting corners. But of course, it's very Western in many ways as well. Yeah, and it's got this very like regimented military style life. Everyone has to go to the military, and everything is rules are really strict. I mean, it's not like here where you can just like say to the cop when he stops you, "Arey bhai, sorry bhai," you don't mess with the cops there.
Not that I have ever done that. No, that's really interesting. My partner, Tushan, he is, well, from Fiji Indian heritage, born in New Zealand and raised in Sydney.
Wow.
And as you know, I'm German Indian, grew up in Germany and then lived a decade in India. And when we met, it was almost like we met each other at a time where we were so worldly, that it kind of like matched. But my God, like later on, I realized how big our differences are. But anyway, we'll get into that in a bit. For now, guys, just a reminder to our listeners to join the conversation by getting in touch with us on lovematters@dw.com. We'd love to hear your intercultural, international love stories. Kalki, what would you say are the positives of being in an international relationship?
I think the international relationship firstly allows you to travel like crazy. We get to skip countries all the time. And Sappho, our daughter, has learned from very young age to be very to adapt well. And she's, speaking fluent Hebrew, French, and Hindi right now.
Jeez.
At the age of 2.8. So yeah, that's pretty cool. And for me, I just think it makes you more tolerant, more open-minded. You understand that there are other perspectives from the one you're reading in mainstream media. And I think that's been an important lesson.
Even I see so many positives of being in an intercultural, international relationship, but there are so many challenges too. For me, of course, it was moving over here to Australia, a place where I really never saw myself moving. So far away from everything, so far away from home, which technically still is Germany where my mom lives, so far away from India as well, or any other place really in the world. But what do you think were the greatest challenges in your relationship so far?
I mean, I think it is this about who moves where. Because I actually last year when we had the second COVID wave and it was really bad in India, we decided to move to Israel because Israel had been almost fully vaccinated and everything was open and the kindergartens were functioning. So we thought it would be a wise decision to move there. We went there and 10 days, so we were in quarantine. And after that, I literally had lived in the country for 1 week and there was the Israel-Palestine war.
Oh, man.
And I found myself in the middle of the night running, we were in this bunker kind of place in our building. And we were inside it. And I was protecting my little girl, covering her. And the missiles, one missile was like just a few miles away, had exploded in the neighborhood, not far. And I mean, the windows are shattering. And for me, I had never had the real experience of war before.
Of course, yeah.
And it was very traumatic. I mean, I think I'm still processing it a year later.
I'm sorry you had to go through that. Yeah,
I'm sorry for everybody who has to go through that. It's just horrible. And and terrifying. And when you have kids, it's really like
Yeah.
you really think about your existentially what it means to live in an area where there is the possibility of war at any point. So anyway, we decided that for now it wouldn't be possible to live in Israel. It was Guy who compromised and came to India.
Yeah, I wonder sometimes if, it would be the fairest if we don't move to Germany, India, or Australia, and we just move to Japan or somewhere, where we both are new.
Yes, no, we did discuss that. We actually discussed Berlin, and we discussed we discussed London because London is more potential for me in terms of work, but Berlin is great for him. Yeah, so
Yeah. No, you would fit into Berlin so well. So yeah, any funny misunderstandings or moments where you feel like, oh, okay, now I get you.
oh, one big thing is the car seat. Guy was so insistent on putting Sappho in the car seat from like age 0. And, at that time when they're babies, that has to be backwards, right? The car seat. And she was just so car sick. She used to just projectile vomit all the time in the car. And I used to get so upset, and I'd be like, let me just hold her in my arms. She's screaming, she's uncomfortable. And he was like, you have to put the car seat. And now she's like 2.5, and the car seat, I'm so grateful for that car seat, because I can just like throw her in there and I can do everything, and I can be, like I can just get where I need to get. And it's so practical to have that car seat and to have imbibed that from an early age. So yeah, I'm very Indian. Yeah. I was born and brought up here. I was born in Oroville, where by the age of 2, you're on a motorbike without a helmet. I mean, with no shoes, barefoot.
Driving it yourself.
Yeah, only exactly.
Yeah, I felt like, very Indian that way when we were traveling, and you just don't get a taxi in Germany or Australia unless you bring your own, maxi-cozy kind of car seat with you. Oh my God, it was like, just let me hold her for 2 minutes, but no way, not
Right.
over here. And that's
Yeah.
also good, keep your baby
Of course.
safe. So
Yeah.
absolutely. What are your main cultural differences between the two of you, like when it comes to food and traditions? I mean, I guess everything's different.
Yeah, everything's different. We have, of course, lots of similarities, spicy food, but of course, one thing he used to do is make salad for breakfast, and now I'm eating salads for breakfast because that's a very Israeli thing. I guess his capacity for noise is very less. And so Bombay was pretty tough on him, because of the noise levels, pollution levels, Diwali crackers, all of that. And I'm like, yeah, noises, whatever, yeah, I think what I learned when I was in Israel was actually in the beginning, I found Israelis really rude. And they have this reputation of being very in your face, very straightforward. They'll, if they don't like the food, they'll tell them straight up, And in the beginning, I used to be so scared of that kind of attitude. And then over time being there, I've also learned to say no to people so much more. Because I think we have a tendency not to say no very well in India. We just smile and say, okay, I'll see what I can do. Whereas now I'm like, no, I can't do it. Sorry, bye. And it's really liberating to be able to learn that, actually, because it's not offensive. It's okay to not want to do something or say no,
Has it made you reflect on your own traditions in a different light? Perhaps realizing that some aspects may not be the best?
Yeah, absolutely. This whole celebrating Diwali with firecrackers, I think that was starting to be something that I anyway was thinking about in terms of the pollution levels. But then when Guy came into my life, I was like, yeah, there's no need to do that. We can just light candles, and it's nice to celebrate light in a different way.
Are you guys religious people or?
Not at all. No, neither of us are strictly religious. But, there are certain, Diwali is just such a big festival that we all celebrate it.
So religious differences were never really an issue for the two of you?
No, I don't think so. We didn't get that pressure from our parents either. we don't have any food restrictions, for example. Like, a guy is a very bad Jew. He eats pork and prawns.
My husband's a very good Gujarati. He eats no meat ever.
Wow. I think perhaps the differences we do have are slightly cultural and political. I don't know, like for me, I'm a bit more like, okay, we'll see what happens. Jo ho gaya, so ho gaya. We'll kind of go along. We don't need to plan our child's education for the next 15 years. Whereas guys like, hang on, what are we teaching her and where are we going to go for the next 5 years? Everything is much more planned, and that's, I guess, a little difficult. But yeah, we work through it pretty well, I think.
Yeah, I realized, it's one thing having a relationship with someone who's from a different background and, from a different country and abroad, and, you two have fun kind of traveling back and forth. But once there's a baby in the mix, it changes everything. It suddenly you want to
Yeah,
really
for
be in that
sure.
same spot because you want to see the baby growing up and you want to be a family unit. And then suddenly those traditions that you never really embraced now are so important to you. And suddenly you realize that the things from your childhood that you treasured so much, your husband or, your partner, your wife don't even know anything about it. And you don't even know why you were following these things, but you just know they give you a fuzzy feeling and you want them for your child. You said that your daughter already speaks, what did you say, 4 languages?
Actually, her English is very weak, but she speaks very good, three languages very well: Hindi, Hebrew, and French.
Yeah, so I talk to Ava in German. I think I have to stay very on course with the German if I want her to learn it. Besides the languages, any other cultural things that you're very passionate, you and your partner are passionate about giving to the child?
I guess we'll see as time goes along. I think one is community for me, regularly meeting with big groups of people, sharing your children with other families. Not like this. It's not a very small, tight unit, because it was like that during the lockdown. It was just the three of us, and it was really tough. We had to be, on it with the two of us as parents. But now I really feel the need to like open it up, and Goa is a lovely place for young kids and parents. And yeah, I feel like now it's nice to have a bigger community where you guys all go to watch plays together, or do some singing classes or dancing and things like that. So yeah, I think that's exciting for me. And yeah, for Guy is a musician, a pianist, so he definitely wants Sappho to get some of that influence in her life. It's not going so well though. She's like, Papa, stop playing the music. Right now she's in this like rejecting zone, because I think she's been overexposed since a young age. We've been playing music for her.
I think also maybe one challenge in such an international relationship is not to lose your own identity. Do you feel that your partner is a bit scared that he'll just kind of have to give up his culture, because he lived in Israel most of his life, I guess, and now he's in India?
Yeah, it's a big question, because we almost have this, we have these this competitiveness of like, oh, my country is better than your country, or your country is worse than my country, because we both come from very politically unstable countries. And so when I tell him, listen, I don't know how I can face this war that is constantly there. The issue
Yeah.
of Palestine Israel isn't getting resolved anytime soon. And he's like, okay, but what about the horror of bringing up a girl in a place like India, where you see rape and real violence on a daily basis? And we get numbed to what we grow up with. I'm so numb to it. I don't even, I'm like, but we're not all like that. And he also says the same. He's like, we're not all like that militant people who want to fight. So and he himself is a pacifist, and is no longer working in the army. So it's interesting that we have this fear of the other, and at the same time we want to like challenge each other and fight about it. But I think what's happened over time is that we've just realized that it's more important to find a place where we can both function and that we can be happy as a unit. And it wasn't happening in Israel because I was really, really depressed during that time in the war. And I felt also I didn't speak the language. I was isolated. I didn't have friends. When you have a toddler, it is very hard to go out, right? You're constantly taking care of your kids. So you don't have time to build a community.
And it's really hard. It's really hard to have a baby.
Right? As women, we're dedicating that good 2 years of our life, pregnancy and taking care of the child. And then where's your career in all of that? We kind of lose sense of that. And it takes a while for it to come back. He's been super understanding to see that my career, needs a little bit of a pickup after this big long break. And he's doing the compromise of traveling to Israel every 2 months. He goes back and he works there. It is harder on him. And I do feel like at some point I might have to compromise in another way, by maybe moving to another country.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess support each other. I guess he saw how you were losing a bit of your identity in the whole motherhood thing. And you are seeing how he could lose his identity in just being in India. So it's all about how we support each other. Is there anything else that you've learned from being in an international relationship?
I think with a long distance, because our relationship was long distance until I got pregnant. When that happens, you don't have time to just mess around because you see each other for such little moments that you really value those moments, and you end up getting deep very quick, and that has just built a foundation for us that we're not questioning our love for each other in any of these arguments that we've had. And, we've had some terrible, terrible arguments about how to bring up Sappho or which country to live in and all of that and politics. But at all times, it's never been like, I don't love you. And I think, we've had practice at long distance love. Yeah. And that's why now we're able to do this, him commuting up and down, talking to each other on a daily basis, even if we're in different countries. And another thing that's actually helped has been therapy. We've been going to like couples therapy, and we've done like some really amazing workshops where basically we work on just practicing how to talk to each other better, not saying you did this, but saying, I feel like this, all of those things where you don't accuse the other person, where you just explain what you're going through so the other person can be more empathetic and not feel like they have to be on the defense. So yeah, it's really good to keep learning, I think.
Even we have I like to call her our relationship coach. She did a course with us just before we got married, like a marriage prep course. She wanted to dig deep into our differences. And I'm so glad we did that even before we, committed to each other in such a way. Just to, sometimes you're a bit scared of kind of getting there and like asking those questions, especially I think Germans and Indians, or Germans and Gujaratis, are very different when it comes to how they handle their money. And that's like the last thing you want to talk about when you're fresh in love and getting married. But it's one of the most important things that you talk about because it can lead to so many problems.
Absolutely.
I'm so sorry. My dog is going wild again. Any last advice to our, I'm just asking for a friend here, but any couples that want to make it work?
I think also a little time away. I mean, we get to have time away because of his work being back in Israel. And I think that really helps you value the time when you are together. In fact, recently we've just been passing the baton because he goes for 3 weeks, he comes back, I see him for 2 days, then I was off to Busan, then he goes when I come back from Busan, and then I was, in Seattle. So you really start to appreciate those moments that you have, especially as a unit, with your child, just that one day where you all go to the beach and you don't do anything. So I think that sometimes that distance is valuable to just remember how how much you love each other, how much you do want to be with each other.
Some quality time together and some quality time apart. Guys, just remember why you fell in love with this person. Just remember that all their quirky cultural differences are part of the reason that you fell in love with them. So I think it's beautiful to keep celebrating those and never to forget about them. But yeah, thanks, Kalki. That was awesome. Yeah, thank you for being so, open.
Thank you, Evelyn. It was good. Good chat.
You've been listening to Love Matters from Indian Express and DW, Germany's international broadcaster, a podcast about relationship topics that matter to you and me. Well, guys, if you have any questions in matters of love, write to us at lovematters@dw.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Evelyn Sharma, and I think love matters.
Love matters. Love